act to follow. Thanks for the introduction, Olivia. What we're going to do here, we've got 20 to 25 minutes, if you guys want to run the clock for us there, where we're going to talk about food tourism, why it matters, where Ireland is, what's our food offering like, and then towards the end I'll bring you guys in for a couple of questions. So if you make a notes of your questions and bring them in at the end, don't worry, we want to make it as inclusive as possible. So I want to just briefly introduce our panel here. You've met Jenny, who I might say is the newly promoted Director of Industry Development at Failte, Ireland. Jenny previously headed up the brand Ireland's Ancient East, and surprised to me that before that she worked with Nestle and in private consultancy, okay? So wide range of experience there. Next to Jenny we have Eoghan, who comes to us from Waterford today. She's the coordinator of Food the Waterford Way. She's been involved in the county's food strategy, in the West Waterford Festival of Food, and before that with Dawn Farm Foods and the Conghaile Group. We have Michele Shirlow, MBE. Michele is Chief Executive with FoodNI, and if you don't know FoodNI, their role is to basically enhance the reputation of food and drink in Northern Ireland, and we're going to hear just how successfully they've done that shortly. There's 450 companies involved in that group, and they go right the way from suppliers all the way up the chain to restaurants. Michele's also involved in the Taste the Island initiative, and we'll hear a little bit more about that shortly. And finally on our panel beside me is Helen Collins, who must be the busiest woman in West Cork, chairperson of the Taste of West Cork Food Festival. She is also hugely involved locally with the West Cork Arts Centre and a lot more. She's a business person, a mediator, a collaborative practitioner, and a managing partner in Wolf & Co. Solicitors.
Thank God,
It's
I'm
Skibbereen.
a family lawyer, not a personal injury lawyer.
So, without further ado, Jenny, I want to jump in and benchmark us straight away, if you don't mind. Where does Ireland rate in terms of food internationally?
I think it's an interesting question. So, I talked a little bit earlier about the consumer actor or the visitor doesn't really feel that we have that high a food offering, and that's kind of their expectation. Now, that is the genuine tourist who's coming, who's not coming for food specifically.
So what are they thinking of when they think of Irish food?
They're thinking about bacon and cabbage and Irish stew, and they're kind of thinking, what is that, and maybe is that appealing? I think what's interesting though, if you look at a strategic level, and you look at destinations developing food strategies, actually Ireland is positioned very high. And if you look at food destinations, so again we're recognised as being one of the leaders in terms of developing food strategy. If you look at our destinations, we've got destinations like the Boyne Valley have been recognised as a food destination, got another award recently, and Northern Ireland has. So at a destination level like that, there are pockets where we're really punching out.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's really more with the foodies and the food areas, and I think that's the interesting piece. When you look at tourism, actually, the number of people who are coming for a food tourism experience is quite small.
Yeah.
And what we've actually, and we're doing really, really well with them, but we really need to step change the perception of food with the wider visitor, and I think that's really what Taste the Island was about. So it was really about you're coming on holiday. There are these amazing food experiences that would be fun things for you to do. You don't have to see yourself as a foodie. And actually what we're seeing is, from our research, this is the kind of stuff the visitor really likes to do.
Gotcha, okay. And Taste the Island is an all-island initiative. I'm not sure people are aware of that. So Michele, let me bring you in on that point. In terms of Northern Ireland, are you seeing something similar when we step off the island? Do people think about stereotypes?
Yeah, definitely. But when they leave, a very clear, different attitude. Part of the reason why we won World's Best Food Destination, because of our year of food and drink, was that there was a 23% rise in visitor attitudes to food in 2 years.
So that was a campaign you ran in 2016 where you...
Well, I think that's something that Tourism and I, we ran a campaign with Tourism Ireland, Tourism and I in 2016, a whole year of food, and every month had a theme, so every part of the industry got a chance to shine, which was great. But as a result of that, the perception of food rose by 23% in a 2-year period. I think the difference maybe in the north is that we have been a region in revolution in terms of food and drink, and we have just seen over the last 10 years a massive growth in new producers, and then those producers have created fabulous ingredients that have fed through to food service and into restaurants. And I think you saw we got another Michelin star last week, but it's not all about the Michelin stars, because actually where we're strong, and I think we're strong right across Ireland, is short supply chains. Short supply chains. The fact that small farmers, the industry is connected, and we're not overly industrialised in food. In fact, I've been told by some British journalists that we were lucky that we escaped the post-Second World War industrialisation that destroyed the British food scene, which might sound a bit heavy, but there's an important point in that.
Yeah. You mentioned that when a visitor to Northern Ireland comes in, they're not necessarily coming in expecting to be wowed by food, but when they leave, they're pleasantly surprised. So help me to understand what's happening. Are they sitting down and getting a zingy plate of food in front of their face, or is it a cumulative experience, or is it about the people serving the food? What's happening there?
They're getting an authentic experience, so they're not necessarily getting a zingy plate of food. I think they're getting good, high quality food, a lot of it locally sourced. Plus they are seeing the industry work together to promote. I mean, for example, we now have about 36 cideries, beer makers, gin makers, whiskey makers that you could have. They're seeing the industry get together to tell the story about Northern Ireland. So it's very much the personality, I think, of the region starting to come through on the plate. And then we've got food experiences, and I think we've got about 14 different food experiences, and you can do everything from, you can go on a boat and catch mackerel and cook it for your breakfast, or you can tour a gin distillery. And they're hearing the whole food story, and they know what you're saying. There's only maybe 10 or 12% of people 5 years ago were foodies, but foodies are growing, and there's more of them. And as you was talking earlier about sustainability, it all links into food.
Yeah.
And I think they love the fact that the industry's quite small, quite new, and not, as I said earlier, not overly sophisticated in some ways.
Yeah, there's a relatability there, and that's sort of a small scale that's important. Helen, I'm going to come to you in one tick, but quickly, audience, who thinks Irish food is better now than it was 10 years ago? Give us a show of hands if you think that's true. Okay, I think that's generally a majority saying that we're on and up. I think we're personally at a high point. You mentioned Michelin stars earlier, but at the casual end too. Who would think our food could compare with, say, France or Spain? I think there's some hands going up slowly there. I'm going to say a third to a half of the audience there. So there may be France and Spain, I guess, would be seen as the top food destinations in the world. So it's interesting to see where you think you rate us. Let me bring it to West Cork. Talk France, Spain, West Cork. What kind of feedback are you getting visitors about food now, Helen?
Well, I'm West Cork through and through, and as far as I'm concerned, it is the centre of the universe. But our experience is slightly different than, as Jenny described, about people expecting to be disappointed by the food, but actually they come to West Cork. It's like a secret place, and it has been known by foodies since way back in the 70s, because the whole food production movement started in West Cork way back in the mid-70s. I was lucky enough to be there. It was an incredible time. And that's when the Veronica Steeles, Leans and the Sally Barneses and everybody arrived in that whole wave, hippie wave that came into West Cork. So we've had really good food since the mid-70s. Then that was supported by extraordinary people like John Field in Field Supermarket in Skibbereen, who gave shelf space to all of these food producers. That's where Glen Island started, all of those people. So people come to West Cork actually for the really good food. And what I saw was happening, and what we experienced, was that people who were in the know came, but that West Cork brand wasn't getting out. To a degree nationally, but certainly not getting out internationally. So that was our task, that was my task, was to build that brand, Fiona and I and our other workers and supporters, with a lot of volunteers. I'm a volunteer. So it's to get that brand out. So we based it on 3 pillars, which was unifying West Cork, which is kind of a spread. I think if we took the top of West Cork from Bandon to Beara, because we operate from Bandon to Beara, it's about 90 kilometres. We have 10 islands, and we go from Macroom in the north down to the Fascinated Rock. So you're coming to experience the whole area. So that was my first task. I was lucky enough to come from Clonakilty, work in Skibbereen, live in Baltimore, and all my clients come from West Cork. So it was workable for me to join it together. And I think the unity and joining an area together is absolutely crucial. I cannot emphasise it enough. And the second pillar was we promoted what we call our magic ingredients. It just wasn't just about the food. We had incredible food, but you had to have all of those soft adventure that we were talking about this morning, the walk across Cape Clear, the spending a night in the yurts in Cape Clear, you know, going to the Mizzen Head, climbing up Mount Gabriel, visiting the food producers, biggie, getting to meet the food producers. And then all of those events in the day would be economically priced, very economically priced, and then you would maybe do a blowout dinner in the evening in one of the Michelin star restaurants, a lot of whom are based on foraging. So we're very sustainable. And the third piece that we did to finish up is that we brought in guest chefs. We bring in guest chefs because we believe it was our way of trying to raise standards. You bring in the excitement, create the stir, they become natural ambassadors for the incredible West Cork food, and they, by coming into somebody's kitchen, there's a kind of really attempt to raise standards all around. So that's our general tenor. So we found people expect the food to be good, but we have made it easy for them to come now. We've given them a nice blueprint to come and choose your own itinerary.
Yeah.
That's kind of the approach.
I think, and I think West Cork, among a couple of other places, would be held up as one of the most evolved food products and food tourism destinations in the country. Waterford is a slightly newer arrival, Eoghan. Tell us, but it is, I should say, the 2019 foodie destination of the year. So if anyone's planning a short break, tell us about the food offering in Waterford. Where are you guys at?
So I guess it's something that's been growing for a while, and Waterford is a traditional agricultural, breadbasket. We've got these amazing Cumber Mountains, where Willie Doran has his Cumber Mountain lamb. And then a very fertile, green, lovely landscape right down to the sea. And that's a very small geography. We've got the fabulous River Blackwater and the big houses and all of the breakers and bread makers and butchers that sustained, and the likes of Esther Barron and Michael McGrath there 7 generations later, or the Flahavans who used to be delivering to those back doors. So you've got and then of course the oldest city, the oldest port in Ireland. Waterford was the most important wine port in Europe. First tea was landed there, first coffee was landed, all of that. The Blah, of course, came about because of the quirky Waterford sense of humour with the Huguenots and their lovely fleur blanc that turned into the Blah. So, the feeling in Waterford is that, we've always had it and we just know it, and we know that the quality of produce and the quality of food, and that Esther, or that Eunice, Howard knows who to call to get the best crab, because it's just out the road there, and Keelan, who I grew up with, is the guy. Or I'm in with Paul Flynn and he's phoning Rossi. God, I know him too. Okay, so this is real. Oh right, okay. Or so that it. I suppose the thing is, it's always been there. The sense is, and that maybe we're just starting to tell people about it now.
Why is that? Why now? Why not earlier? What's happening?
I think Waterford feels, it's been a quiet place, just always a nice pace of life, and maybe didn't have the confidence to stand up. And winning an award like Foodie Destination gives you now the confidence to stand up and go, hang on now, actually we are as good as a lot of the others, and we do have exactly what you guys are talking about. The network, the places, the ability to meet people, the great food then delivered on a plate at the end of the day, and platforms like Tasty Island and Failte Ireland helping us, guide and well, that has definitely helped us, the confidence. So the West Waterford Festival of Food started back in 2008, and that was a community getting together with a council and saying, we have a beautiful place, we have great food around here, how do we, I suppose, use the food festival and that food event to leverage, tell people, come to this amazing place and experience food part of it. And because of that, people, if you're going to think about the Greenway, you're thinking, now Dungarvan's a great place for food. It's there and whatever. So it's that
that's 12
So if
years
you-
of work, and so now push that out further.
Yeah. Tell me, if you go to a tourism business or hospitality business and you're talking to them about food being important, sell that to me. Why should I care? You say people are coming to stay in my hotel, to sleep in their room, they're going to do on a bike trip. Why should I care what they eat? It's just fuel.
And that's the difference. It's they do care and they're asking now, so that makes our job easier. The consumer is asking for the local food and drink. And then we talked earlier about what the domestic tourists want, and Olivia talked about it being enriching and experiential, and I think that's a key part for me. It's not just the 10% of foodies we're after, it's the people who, when they come, want to have good experiences, and food and drink delivers on those experiences. The ability to make the brown bread in the kitchen, the ability to go and see Esther Barnes, the oldest Scotch big ovens in Ireland, and then go out into a cafe and have.
So what's happening there that isn't happening to me in a gallery or in a museum when I eat that bread or I'm in that shop?
I suppose the people are a big part of that. The fact that it's real, it's not affected, and the fact that you're sitting, you're relaxing, you're at your most open. This is your core. This is local. It is bringing you back generational for some people. You suddenly remember that actually maybe my grandmother did this, or I remember doing this kind of thing on the farm. So it is bringing back a comfort and a memory, and you're taking a pause in your activities, and you're going or whatever in your time, and this is at its core. Plus, look, it's great flavour, it's great, the sensual nature of the experience.
That's right. Yeah.
Because it's local, because it's not off the back of a distribution truck.
And let me hold you there for a sec and zoom right back out. Jenny, what trends-wise, experiential tourism, like Eoghan is bringing to life so beautifully there, that's right on the money at the moment. Why?
Well, I think as life gets a little bit busier and we all get a little bit more hectic and we have less time, this is one of the big things that we said, time is a bit more precious. So actually you really expect more from it, and I think if you look at consumers, they're getting a little bit more demanding. So if you think back 10 years ago, tourism was, on a bus, buy the t-shirt, tick the box, I've seen that. Those days are gone now, so everybody wants to get off the bus, they want to meet people, they want to touch things, they want to see things. And we're seeing that across all of the markets, and so that is, I think, lives have got busier and kind of more challenging. So I suppose when people are switching off and they're having their holidays, and Olivia talked about it, I think it's this engagement. So there is an expectation of an emotional engagement. So when people are coming, they are interested. We talked about the cultural curious. Sometimes it's like, well, what does that word mean? All that word means is I'm going to a place that I'm interested in, and when I get there, I kind of want to hear about it.
Yeah.
And so, the experience is about bringing that to life. So, I have this perception of Ireland, and then when I come here and all these people talk to me about it, I'm actually getting enriched because I'm understanding more about it, and that's making it feel a little bit more special.
That's a great word.
Practicality, for Taste the Island, we took on a busbia, which is a food trail, and we said, right, we're going to do this. We've been talking about it, saleable experience, product you can sell. Come on, and we can do this. We have all these great things. Yeah. And the pressure then, when the culturally curious arrived, and they're there with me outside the Granville in Waterford, and we're taking off, it's like, oh God, what do they want? They just loved being able to go and see the blah being made, and go, the smell, oh my God, there's no preservative, 4 ingredients, really? Oh my God,
I think the clean food is really important, and people are massively exercised by clean food.
What do you mean by clean food?
Organic or naturally grown food that's clean, without chemicals, without any of the preservatives, short distance food that comes out of the ocean there straight onto your plate, not frozen, like the Gobbean cheeses and all the rest, with totally natural ingredients. And they people are very exercised by that.
Yeah.
Because the bread in America has a whole lot of other range of products in there.
And it's amazing, we take some of our visitors now, we take them into the supermarket to show them all the products on the supermarket shelf. That these are not just restaurant food, it's not just tourist food. This is the food we eat every day.
Yeah.
So,
this utopia you described.
It is. We don't eat farmed fish. Like, people would curl their noses up at farmed fish.
What about oysters? You were telling me.
Oh my God, we eat oysters every day. Sorry. And fresh crab.
As you do.
As you do, indeed.
But our beef's not grain fed.
Yeah.
It's a massive I mean, I remember the first time an American said to me about, do you have grass-fed beef? Is this grass-fed beef? And I'm thinking, really?
What other kind of beef is
What other beef is there?
Yeah.
Are you finding that as well, that cleanness that we're describing, that kind of authenticity and the emotional experience, Michele?
Yeah. People like simple things.
Yeah,
I find simple. And I mean, I would say to anybody, don't overcomplicate it. I mean, you asked why. I mean, food is a third of their spend, but it's going up their motivator to travel.
Food or food and drink?
Sorry, food and drink
Yeah.
is a third of their spend. And the sustainability message is coming through. I mean, we had a group from Norway who came to Northern Ireland to see Titanic, but wanted to learn how to make potato bread because they could remember their grandmothers had made griddle bread, but they hadn't seen it done for 40 or 50 years. And they paid quite a bit of money for something that has, as you say, a few potatoes, a bit of butter, a bit of flour.
And what did they say about that?
Oh, they loved it. I mean, they actually specifically asked for it. It was part of the reason why they came. But the feedback on those food experiences is really, really strong. And I don't think people should be afraid also to charge for them. People don't. I mean, if somebody came to me to learn how to make potato bread, I'd be thinking probably £15 a head. But I think if a tourist comes, it's a lot more, and they want to hear the whole story.
I think that's back to Connor's point on value as well. And Olivia, you were making that earlier.
I charged, I did a foraging day during a Taste of West Cork. It was an exhausting day, but I charged €250 a head for 12 people. And I took them on all my favourite things. I took them to Gobeen, I took them to a beehive, and went through the beehive. We took them to Glebe, all the rest. Took them out fishing, and I took them foraging, and then we took our lobsters out of the pots, our shrimp, our everything, and then we cooked with 2 Michelin star chefs at the end of the day. Everything we got, and had dinner. And everybody was absolutely over the moon today. And these were the ordinary things, just like Michele is saying. The things that we take, and you mentioned it, I think, Olivia, earlier, that we take them for granted, all those incredible joys that we actually experience every day. But lots of city dwellers don't, and lots of inland people, as we'd say. And they line up on the pier down in Baltimore, and they're quite nervous about going over to the islands, things that we take totally for granted. And amazing experiences, hugely successful engaging with the islands.
We had a group of food writers from London who came. I mean, I've seen food writers from London on the back of a potato picker in their high heels and little skirts. With another lady she went to an open farm. It was just a very small, simple open farm, and they were running around taking pictures of hens and hugging lambs. Sorts of things that we did every weekend.
So we've painted here a picture of what we can do really well. There's key themes bubbling to the surface. But before I get to the audience questions, I want a quick reality check. Just a quick answer. What can we improve? Let me start, Jenny, with you.
I think it's really about the consistency of the offer.
Great point.
Because I think sometimes they're like hidden gems, and it's also, and I'm using the word accessibility here, I'm not talking about the way we normally think about it. The visitor needs to be able to find it easily and be easily able to explore it. And sometimes you have to be the locals to know it and have that insight. So I think if we can get consistency of offering and that we make it easily available, that'll be a step change.
Okay, great point. Amy?
I think that we've all worked with and know people within our groups who are amazing at delivering on this, but that the consumer is across a wider band. So I suppose for that local and shorter food chain to maybe cut across, and I know you've been working with the higher footfall tourism operators, so that it becomes more accepted that when you're eating the local food from around you as opposed to a more mainstream offering at times.
Okay.
Drinks included,
Yeah. Okay, Michele, where do you think we can improve in terms of food tourism?
I'd like to think that we could improve on this working together, and I think Taste the Island is a very powerful start. It would be great if we could build it up, maybe have an all-island year in the longer term, because I think that that's a rising tide that lifts all boats. And I think the other thing that I would be thinking about very seriously is health foods or healthy foods and flexitarianism. I've been at 2 presentations this year.
Explain flexitarianism.
Well, not just having a meat, less meat in your red meat in your diet, linked back to sustainability. But I've been at 2 presentations this year, And I think if I'd seen them 10 years ago, probably a farmer would have got up with a pitchfork and killed the presenter. But it's been just that the whole thing about diet is coming down the track in terms of health, and I think we need to embrace it.
But that's an easy win because we all want to be healthier.
Mm-hmm.
We all have busier lifestyles, and we're talking about a healthy solution and simplicity.
Yeah,
So it
simple
seems
things,
like
but
we can
just being
make
aware
that
and
bridge.
on menu having vegan, vegetarian options and healthy ones.
Okay.
Simple things.
Okay, Helen, what would you improve?
I think there needs to be investment in professional organisations working on the ground in different areas.
Such as?
We depend way too much on volunteer organisations, and I think it can't deliver the professionalism that is needed for the consistency that we're speaking about and the quality of the product and so on and so forth, and our constant struggle. Now, we're greatly supported by Cork County Council, in fairness to them, and some support from Failte Ireland, but we raise, our turnover is 120,000. So Cork County Council and Tourism Ireland cover 50,000, and we have to raise all the rest of the money, and that's for one full-time person who's paid very little and one half-time person. And we've, in a sense, created a monster for ourselves because it's fantastic. And now my biggest challenge is to try and make sure that that's put on a professional basis. It's totally professional based and has the continuity, consistency, standards and everything else, so that I can bow out and go off and do something else, eat more oysters. But
And that's like with the process we can't.
it goes. I totally and that is a big issue.
And I want to just throw it open to the audience. We've got about 4 or 5 minutes left. Who's got the microphones there? There's one up here on the left. Has anyone got a question? Okay, here we go. Just tell us your name and who you're with and give us the question.
My name is Walter. I have a new little tour company called Walter's Way Tours.
Okay, you're welcome.
I spent 12 years in West Cork. Helen would know. I've spent 15 years in the sort of artisan food business.
Okay.
You suggested what can we improve?
Yeah.
So I bring mostly Americans all over the country. I think we can improve the breakfasts, and it can make a huge difference just because they're tired of having these wonderful, huge, big Irish breakfasts every single morning. So, for example, I book people into the Armada Hotel in Spanish Point. They've got their own little farm, they've got hens, they provide a lot of their own stuff. It's fantastic breakfast. There's a place in Dingle called Heaton's Bed and Breakfast. My God, do they do breakfast.
The Castlewood House.
You know, Kinsale is amazing because there's a fellow called Colin O'Regan who grows everything about 4 miles away.
Yeah.
And he supplies 16 restaurants and hotels in Kinsale.
Okay.
And I think the vegetable side of the meal can lift the whole meal, the evening meal, so much. You know, when the carrots come down from the Maharees in Killarney in July, that lifts the whole evening meal everywhere in Killarney. And before that, you don't taste the vegetable from January to July. And then they come down from the Maharees, and my God, the meals in Killarney just improve massively from
You should write that down. That's a good line.
You know, so
it's like the carrots to send.
yeah, I just think breakfast.
Thank
you
you.
know.
Okay, thanks for that. And Irish breakfast is something that we do have a reputation for internationally. Anybody else have a point or a question to make?
John Connolly, I'm a member of Galway City Council. There's
Hiya.
one thing that's always amazed me. It's for an island nation, we don't really have an international reputation for our cuisine in relation to fish. I mean, I've had the opportunity in recent years to travel a small bit with my children and that, and gone to the continent, Portugal, been to the Adriatic coast in Spain, and fish has a much more prominent place on the menu there. And it's something now I look forward to if we are planning to go away. And it really is surprising because we have villages around the country who rely on the fishing industry. That from a cuisine perspective, we probably haven't exploited it enough.
Yeah, probably came from Ireland, what you're eating. Which is the sad thing, the langoustines and crab.
Yeah.
But that it's come.
It's so much of it is exported out of Ireland. That's our biggest problem, is to get enough fish.
We as a domestic tourist have a cultural issue with fish, okay? It was a penal thing. So because O'Neill, who was a Shannon singer, famously would have said, as somebody came into his house down in Ballygowan, oh, what's in the pot? Oh, that whole thing on Blumachshin. that lobster in the pot,
Yeah.
like it was looked down upon. So
Yeah.
the food is there, it's within our reach, there's our crab claws there if you want them, you know. So culturally, ourselves, maybe we don't own it enough, but the product obviously is fabulous. And
pristine.
the oysters that
It
we're
is,
serving
yeah.
are some of the best in Europe and recognised as such, you know. So
Yeah, good point. Anybody else here at the front? Tina, just introduce yourself for us.
I'm Tina O'Dwyer of the tourism space and have been involved with the Burn Food Trail, and it's an observation about sustainability that I'd love some feedback on. In the Burn, the food trail grew out of an ecotourism network who had seen the need. We need to find a much more appealing way to talk about sustainability because everybody's eyes are glazing over. So this was a way to communicate a sustainable type of tourism that was sexy to the visitor and appealing to the trade and that could be marketed. And I think what all the ladies have been describing there is sustainability in action. That we don't need to think about, is it going to make us money, is it going to cost us money, are the visitors interested or not. They spoke about being profitable and charging the right amount of money, so that's financial sustainability, being socially sustainable, about collaboration and connecting your destination, and about being environmentally sustainable is the way your local foods are farmed and produced by people who tell their own story and heritage. Delights the visitor. And that's the circle of sustainable tourism, be it in food or be it in craft or be it in anything else. We don't need to get caught up in talking about, and then of course resource efficiency comes behind that. That's not the appealing conversation. The appealing conversation is what you've heard here. And I'd love to know, the ladies are nodding, to what extent sustainability informs the behind the scenes conversation. And they're very, very good at the marketing side of it. I'm sure it's a big part behind the scenes.
Okay, and that's a wonderful summation of the point, Tina. Nice one. We're running out of time, so I really can just take a quick line or two on this. And
if I could just say to Tina, it's one of the reasons we do 250 events, but we spread them throughout the whole of West Cork. And those events may only have 12 people at them, or they may have 60 people at them. So, but you're getting everybody travelling. And I know we shouldn't be travelling. I was thinking maybe of an electric bus when we were talking about it earlier, but it's spreading the benefit to everybody.
Okay, quick point from you,
Yeah,
Michele.
well, it's intrinsic because you're sort of in food culture. So we have things like potato festivals where, you know, you're buying the potatoes, they're just going up the road. But the one story that I loved is about with a lady who runs a very nice bed and breakfast. And any children come to stay, she takes them out to the hen house and she takes them out a pen and they can mark which egg they want to eat for their breakfast.
So it's connection, the engagement.
I think that's a lovely image to end on, guys. Thank you so much for your time to Michele Shirlow, Eoghan Conghaile, Helen Collins and Jenny de Saule. Thank you very much.